hate Monster Hunter Wilds, not because of performance, but because it simply just isn't Monster Hunter.
Off to a phenomenal start for a video. No wonder this video has such a controversial like to dislike ratio. Like, I really hate when people say this, like, oh, this thing is not actually this thing. It would be like in my kinda controversial Sonic Adventure 2 video if the very first thing I said was, oh, Sonic Adventure 2, it's not actually a Sonic game, guys. It's kind of funny as well how he's saying that he doesn't hate it for the performance, which, if anything, is my biggest criticism of the game. Like, the game is very unoptimized on PC. I mean, don't get me wrong, it still runs between 45 and 70 FPS, but that's still unacceptably bad.
I've been playing Monster Hunter for a long time now. It's a series that means a lot to me personally, and I want nothing more than to see the series keep on improving. I've played Freely Unite, Monster Hunter Tri, and 3 Portable, Monster Hunter Rise, and Sunbreak, Monster Hunter World, and just recently, Monster Hunter Wilds.
Because nothing screams rage bait like making a diarrhea sound effect when talking about the game in your video. I mean, shit. Which is all the more funny because, as we're gonna come to see, his reasoning for hating Wilds is fucking stupid.
Monster Hunter, in my experience, has always been a very free gameplay experience. Stories are basically sidelined. You can do whatever you want to progress in the way that you want and set your own goals and personalize your experience.
And this remains the same in Monster Hunter Wilds. So what's your point?
My favorite thing about starting a Monster Hunter playthrough is the feeling going from literal poverty, wearing shitty starting gear, no money for supplies, and even struggling to pay for pickaxes, to then progress step by step, little by little, to eventually fight some of the most coolest, most intimidating monsters ever designed, wearing gear you yourself have crafted, piece by piece, while carrying around potions and gadgets you've concocted and created yourself. It was all your hard work coming together to an ultimate battle between you and this giant monster standing in front of you.
And literally all of that is in Monster Hunter Wilds, so I will ask again, what is your issue with this game?
The downtime between hunts and the time for preparation is what makes the action and the hunt extremely thrilling, so why does modern Monster Hunter reject this idea?
It literally doesn't.
To understand this further, this is not just a problem with modern Monster Hunter, but modern AAA gaming as a whole.
I'm trying to restrain myself from making a boomer joke, but it's getting harder and harder to do so.
It focuses on the end result rather than the journey there. This is why we get games half-baked and not ready for launch being launched prematurely.
And what the fuck does this have anything to do with Monster Hunter Wilds? Like, you yourself even said you hate the game despite the performance, so clearly the whole, oh, the game being released in a shitty state clearly can't be that important to you, so why are you heavily focusing on this?
Monster Hunter Wilds is a product of our current times, and the trend directly goes against what the Monster Hunter series is at its core. Hunting monsters. You might think, hey, that's not true, we're still hunting monsters. I'd say even more so than the previous games. And you would be correct if hunting in its essence equated to fighting.
So you yourself admit that Monster Hunter Wilds, you are spending a lot of time hunting and fighting monsters in this game, more so than previous games in the series, and yet you're somehow gonna still spin this as if Monster Hunter Wilds isn't a Monster Hunter game.
But it isn't. This is Monster Hunter, not Monster Fighter. Fighting it is just one part of the process of hunting, the part where you hit the monster until it dies. Hunting requires knowledge of your prey. Hunting is about planning, prepping, and tracking, and then finally, after all the previous steps, the fight.
Even if we go off of your headcanon as to what Monster Hunter should be at the core experience, you literally just described how it is in Monster Hunter Wilds. The only thing that's different in this game is the tracking, because you basically know where the monster is from the get-go. Other than that, it's literally the same as previous games, and it follows your own headcanon as to what Monster Hunter should be.
If you focus on just the fight, Wilds introduces many flashy mechanics, such as offset attacks, sneak attacks, power clashes, and most prominently, wounds and wound opening attacks.
So Monster Hunter Wilds introduces many mechanics to help deepen the combat and also enhances the moveset of basically every weapon in the game. And yet somehow you're gonna spin this as if it's a bad thing.
These on paper add flavor to the action and make the combat very satisfying.
And it makes the combat more satisfying in practice too. So what's your point?
But all it really does is removing the respect the player has to give the monster.
Because nothing screams giving a monster respect like invading its home and killing it and then carving up its corpse to make new weapons and armor from its remains.
Now, what I mean is that with wounds, you can permanently be on the offensive. With a loop of knockdowns, you can score on the monster to prevent it from fighting back, allowing you to completely decimate all but the most challenging monsters without much thought put into it.
No, you still have to put thought into it, because in order to decimate these monsters, you have to make the most of the new mechanics that are introduced to Wilds, and that, by definition, requires thought. If you want to ignore these mechanics and just swing your weapon over and over at the monster, you're obviously going to get less results than if you engage with the game's mechanics.
People like to compare the hunt, a monster hunter, to a dance between the monster and the hunter.
I mean, not necessarily. What if you have ranged weapons? What if you're a lance user? You're not exactly going to be dancing with the motherfucker when you move like a snail. And some monsters you're not going to be dancing with at all, regardless of your weapon type, because they don't move around the arena as much as other monsters.
Well, the terminology is too graceful for what is actually occurring. I agree with the concept. A dance needs two participants, both getting their own times to shine, and in our case, use their movesets.
And that literally exists in Monster Hunter Wilds. Fuck, it exists in literally every single Monster Hunter game. You have the ability to fuck up the monster, they have the ability to fuck up you, assuming that you don't have ridiculously overpowered armor.
Guaranteed flinch and knockdowns from the wounds throws the power balance between the two dancers out the window.
What's that? Being knowledgeable of game mechanics that they're designed to give you an advantage in combat and taking advantage of those mechanics to make the fights easier? You're saying that those mechanics make the fights easier? I mean, color me shocked. Like, dude, no shit they make the fights easier. What were you expecting? But they don't make the fights an absolute joke like you're implying.
With the hunter only having to worry about their own movesets while unloading on the monster constantly without having to worry about the monster's moveset and power.
I love how you say this to demean Monster Hunter Wilds. Meanwhile, there are literally videos of people on Monster Hunter World that frame by frame have perfect dodges and make the most of their attacks to completely decimate the monster in a matter of seconds without taking damage. Being skilled at Monster Hunter World, that's good. Being skilled at Monster Hunter Wilds? Nah, that's bad. It makes the game too easy. And for the record, I'm not trying to demean Monster Hunter World. Like, I think it's a phenomenal game, but there's no denying the fact that you can completely destroy monsters if you know what you're doing. Almost as if that's a thing that you can do in video games. If you take advantage of the mechanics and you are skilled and knowledgeable, yeah, you can completely abuse the game and destroy the game's content, making the game a lot easier than if you didn't do those things.
Because I essentially have no power over the hunter.
Wrong, actually. Just because Monster Hunter Wilds is on the easier side for the Monster Hunter series, that doesn't mean that monsters don't pose a threat to you at all. Gormagala, Zor Shia, fuck, basically every single tempered monster in the game, they can kill you in like 2 or 3 hits if you're not careful. You can fuck them up, they can fuck you up. That is the rhythm of Monster Hunter Wilds. Like, please no one introduce this guy to the Dark Souls games. He would hate them.
This might sound fun on the surface. You might think, wow, I can use all these cool moves to destroy these stupid monsters. The first and most obvious problem is that it makes the game too easy.
I mean, it makes the game easier, sure, but I don't think they make the game that easy. If anything, I think the thing that made the game too easy in my playthrough was the fact that paralysis is way too overpowered of a status effect, and that was the thing that allowed me to stunlock monsters.
Which many people have pointed out. But my biggest issue is not mainly how easy it is. It is important, but it's that it makes monsters feel pathetic, weak, and bland.
I love how you're saying this, yet you're not keeping the same energy for World. It's like, yeah, if you take advantage of every single mechanic in World, and if you're a god at the game, then yeah, you will destroy most monsters in that game. I don't know how that game gets a pass, yet you're so hyper-fixated on hating Wilds.
And it makes knockdowns where you get to do damage uncontested feel less special and impactful. In previous generation, for example, Monster Hunter GU, you had to play around the monster's attacks and sneak in hits in between the monster's attacks.
You mean like literally every single Monster Hunter game? Fuck, you mean literally every single video game ever?
The monster dictated the flow of the battle instead of the player.
The only monsters that dictate the flow of the battle are monsters with scripted set pieces, like Fatalis in World, where you have to get behind a certain object to defend yourself, otherwise his fire breath literally kills you. I hate to break it to you, dude, but this exists in every Monster Monster Hunter game, with World, Rise, and Wilds being probably the best examples. Like, if you know what you're doing and you're good enough at the game and you use all the mechanics at your disposal, yeah, you can completely turn the tides of the fight and dictate what happens. I don't know why this is such a new concept.
Letting the monster receive the spotlight, pushing the hunter onto their back foot, and testing them to really hold on. And then minutes into the hunt, the hunter's strike to the monster's legs topple it, and the power balance gets flipped completely 180 degrees. And that was the time to strike.
And that concept is literally in Monster Hunter Wilds. The only difference now is that the game gives you mechanics that reward the player for being in control of the fight, as it allows you to knock down the monster more often and get more damage in as a result. Also, I know you're not about to sit here and act like Wilds makes the game too easy when you have games like Monster Hunter World, for example, where you can mount monsters for basically a guaranteed knockdown. Or you can use the Clutch Claw and the scenery in Worlds for basically a guaranteed knockdown as well. Like, at the very least in Wilds, you have to earn the knockdowns. Obviously, this is referring to the wounds, because yeah, you can still mount monsters for an easy guaranteed knockdown in Wilds as well. However, this system was in Worlds first. I don't know why you're talking so much shit about Wilds when World did this as well.
Get your spotlight of the dance to assert your dominance as a hunter, and the cycle would begin anew. So by having less time to do uncontested damage and less time in the spotlight in older games, it made the experience itself more enjoyable and exciting.
I mean, speak for yourself. I really enjoyed the new combat mechanics in Wilds, and I enjoyed the fleshed out moveset of every weapon. I enjoyed the risk/reward, where yeah, the monster could definitely mess me up as I'm by no means a good player. However, by making the most of my weapon's moveset and taking advantage of the mechanics, I could turn the tides of the battle in an instant. Like, Monster Hunter Wilds is by no means perfect, not at all, but I really enjoyed the mechanics in this game, and it made for probably my favorite gameplay style of any Monster Hunter.
Moving on to the second most important part of hunting, the preparation. Prep came in many ways in old games, such as Generations Ultimate. Gathering materials for potions, rations, traps, and gadgets like flash bombs and sonic bombs. Hunting weaker monsters for their precious pellet and scales to craft new powerful armor and weapons, and ultimately organizing your inventory and armor set before setting out to hunt.
Literally everything you just said is in Monster Hunter Wilds.
Prep in Monster Hunter Wilds is pretty much non-existent and not needed at all.
That's objectively not true, and you know it. Like, try beating Gormagala with the level 1 Hope weapons and tell me how that goes. What's that? You're wearing low rank armor and getting fucked up by a high rank monster? Oh, but suddenly the game is much easier and more bearable now that you're wearing high rank armor instead? Wow, dude. It's almost as if preparing is a thing in Monster Hunter Wilds and you're just being dishonest.
You can quickly grab materials such as herbs and honey from extremely far away.
And this is a problem how exactly? Like, it doesn't change anything about the gameplay style, nor the core gameplay itself. It's literally just a quality of life improvement. You don't have to put your knob inside of a beehive anymore to gather honey. You can gather honey whilst also approaching and hunting down a monster. Like, I don't know how this isn't a quality of life improvement.
Using the grappling hook. Removing all needs for healing preparations as you grapple everything you need while slogging through the railroaded story. We'll get to that.
So, according to you, healing preparation is completely thrown out the window in Monster Hunter Wilds, all because you can gather one of the items needed to craft mega potions in this game. Do you guys see what I mean when I say that this guy is just hating Wilds just for the sake of it?
You don't need gadgets to help you in the hunt because the hunt itself presents very little threat.
I mean, if you're good enough at Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise, you don't need gadgets either. Like, gadgets at the end of the day are completely optional, but bringing them with you is going to give you an objective advantage. And once again, this is something in Monster Hunter Wilds. I don't know what's so hard to understand about this.
Another impact of a very easy fight is the lack of attentions you need to pay your armor set and weapon.
Weapons, actually. Monster Hunter Wilds was the first game that allows you to bring 2 different weapons to a hunt, meaning that you could argue there is a greater need than ever to the whole bringing weapons and preparing and deciding which weapons is best for a hunt. You know, that thing that apparently doesn't exist in Wilds, even though it clearly fucking does.
Making that aspect of prep unimportant as well. You might think, hey, that sounds great. I don't need to spend time grinding before a hunt. Isn't that a quality of life thing, quote unquote?
I mean, you still do need to do grinding in Monster Hunter Wilds. Like, that is undeniable, and the fact that you're denying this is fucking wild to me. No pun intended. Let's just ignore Monster Hunter World, I guess, the game that post-launch gave you access to the Defender armor and weapons, which were so overpowered that right from the get-go, you basically didn't need to craft anything at all in the entire fucking story. The gear offered you that high defense and such high damage and such a ridiculous combination of skills that basically no monster in the main game could stop you, not even the Elder Dragons. But yeah, generally speaking, you need to grind less in Monster Hunter Wilds than you do the older games. Like, I don't know why this isn't a quality of life improvement.
This modern gaming buzzword is the reason why prepping for a hunt is dead.
It's not dead, you cunt. Open your eyes.
Quality of life, in this instance, removes an entire part of the core gameplay cycle of Monster Hunter.
It really does not.
As I've stated, hunting is about prepping and then fighting.
Oh, you mean the things that are literally in Monster Hunter Wilds, you know?
Imagine if a movie like The Lord of the Rings had no build-up or dialogue, and it immediately starts at the emotional climax between Frodo and Sam. You wouldn't know what to think, would you? Why should I care about this fucking scene, or in our case, this fight, if I had zero build-up to it?
Irrelevant anecdote, considering that there is preparation and build-up in Monster Hunter Wilds, you're just oblivious to it for some fucking reason.
Let's focus on a very controversial problem now, the difficulty. Some people have said, oh, it's because you've gotten better from previous games. Of course it's easy. You have experience. Or, oh, it's just low rank. All previous games' low ranks were super easy like this as well.
Those people, to an extent, would have a point, because Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise were my first Monster Hunter games, and as a result, Monster Hunter Wilds was kinda easy in comparison to some of my friends who struggled with the game.
Were people actually defending the difficulty and saying it's not easy, and it's actually difficult?
Given that you misrepresented the game's gameplay loop, I feel like you're gonna misrepresent the difficulty as well.
Unfortunately, these are all false. After playing Monster Hunter Wilds until the end of Chapter 3, I've recently started a new save on Monster Hunter GU. Playing through the low rank, it was actually challenging. Yes, me who have played this series since childhood found this game's low rank actually pretty challenging.
Okay, and I've played the Monster Hunter game since 2018, and I found Monster Hunter Rise to be easy. What's your point?
The 2-star hub urgent quest of hunting Blagonga. Yes, the big snow monkey, who's also in Wilds, and it's probably pathetic, actually almost got me and my wife to triple cart. It was the most fun hunt I've had since the last time I played Old Monster Hunter, and it's also the reason why I realized the flaws of modern Monster Hunter and why I wanted to make this video.
The flaws of modern Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter World and Rise? Oh no, I'm gonna suck their dick. But no, Monster Hunter Wilds, that's where the problems lie. Like, if you enjoy the older games, more power to you, but you are being so hypocritical right now for criticizing Wilds and not keeping the same energy for World and Rise.
Another aspect of Wilds that sticks out like a sore thumb is the emphasis on the world being alive and dynamic, while not only giving away the locations of monsters on the map at all times, but also giving your mount a auto-navigate button that you can use so you don't really even have to pay attention to the world.
Dude, if you don't like the auto-navigation, how about you just don't use it? Like, that is something you can do in the game. And also, I don't even hate the idea of the monsters being permanently marked on the mini-map, because at the end of the day, you're still hunting the monsters. It just reduces the amount of time you're wandering around like a dumbass looking for the fucking thing.
One thing that I think Monster Hunter World did really well was the ecology aspect. The way you had to explore the map and find monsters using their tracks. It was exceptional, and it was cool.
It was cool right up until the multiple moments in the campaign which forced you to stop what you were doing in order to find these damn tracks just so you could progress with the fucking story.
I don't have a problem with Monster Hunter Rise giving you the location of the monster immediately, because there was no tracking system to speak of. And the game was focused way more on the arcadey aspect of Monster Hunter.
But Monster Hunter Wilds, which is a combination of the two, nah, it's an objective issue. Also, it's funny how you discredit quote-unquote buzzwords like quality of life improvement, yet you yourself are using phrases like arcadey in order to justify Monster Hunter Rise being a certain way.
Monster Hunter Wilds' problem of the player not actually needing to engage with the basic tracking of targets is accentuated by the fact that the player doesn't even need to hold down the W key on their keyboard and navigate around.
They literally do. Like, at best, your raptor or mount will get you to a monster. Like, it can't do anything else besides that. Like, exploring the world, gathering resources, mining outcrops, gathering bones at bone piles, crafting better weapons and armor, choosing your weapons and armor, fighting the fucking monsters themselves. Like, all of this requires input from the player.
The mount automatically navigates the entire map for you.
No, it takes you to a specific part of the map for you. It's basically a more immersive fast travel system. Please don't misrepresent the game.
This is probably just another quote-unquote quality of life change that basically gets rid of the need for the player to actually even play the damn game for God's sake.
Or you could just not use it. Have you ever thought about doing that? I love how you're not even talking about how Monster Hunter World basically railroads players into using the Clutch Claw, especially in Iceborne, but hey, that's not my fucking business.
The player having trouble completing their Tekken combo trial on the training dummy monsters? Let's roll in a quality of life change. Let's add auto battling. This way you can get all the materials for your build without even playing.
Irrelevant anecdote, since pretty much every single resource requires the player to gather it in order to make new shit. Like, at this point, you're just a Wilds hater.
The last flaw I wanted to discuss was the railroading and the lack of freedom you get. In old Monster Hunter games, it was up to you to decide which quests you wanted to do and when you wanted to do them. You made the plan to rise to the top of the HR and become, a top hunter, not the game. In Monster Hunter Wilds, to progress the story, you must sit through the dialogue and cutscenes with unskippable railroad sections just to rank up and continue the game.
You mean the thing that was also in Monster Hunter World? Yet you're not gonna criticize World for that? You're just gonna hyper-fixate on Wilds? Damn, the hypocrisy.
This would be fine if Monster Hunter was at all a game focused on story. But story was never even what Monster Hunter was about. Story was so irrelevant that Capcom made a new fucking spin-off series called Monster Hunter Stories.
Well, that's funny because the original Monster Hunter Stories came out in 2016 and Monster Hunter Worlds came out in 2018, so why aren't you keeping this same energy for Monster Hunter World? Also, dude, if you don't give a fuck about the story, just skip the damn cutscenes. Like, that's what I did. I didn't give a shit about Nata or any of the other characters in this game, aside from Gemma, because fucking hell, she's fit. Besides that, I didn't care. I just skipped all the cutscenes and went straight to the combat, and that is something that you can indeed do. If you don't care about the story, you can do that in Wilds. You can't do that in World.
But I wouldn't be so opposed to the inclusion, of a story if it was actually good. But like all Monster Hunter games, the story falls short. In the case of Wilds, it actively hurts its gameplay because it is not something you can just ignore and pretend like it doesn't exist in previous titles.
Almost every single cutscene in this game is skippable, so no, that's just a fucking lie.
Overall, Monster Hunter Wilds falls short of my expectations and is another step deep into the direction that Monster Hunter World sent the series in.
And why is that a problem? Like, by your own logic, this just makes you a hypocrite, since you yourself said that you liked Monster Hunter World, Monster Hunter Iceborne, Monster Hunter Rise, and Monster Hunter Sunbreak. So again, by your own logic, you're just a massive hypocrite. Either that or you're just a blind hater of Monster Hunter Wilds, since most of your criticisms are fucking stupid. He doesn't really say much else for the rest of the video, he just goes on and on about how the story is forced down your throat, even though, once again, you can skip basically all of the cutscenes in this game. I can't say the same for Monster Hunter World, but hey, what are you gonna do? And for the record, I don't hate Monster Hunter World either. Like, I think that World is one of the best games ever made. However, a lot of the criticisms he made against Wilds in this video, you could make towards World and Rise as well, yet for some reason he didn't. Wilds is by no means a perfect game, not at all, but I think that a lot of the criticisms were unjustified in this video. But what do you guys think of Monster Hunter Wilds? Do you think it's a flawed masterpiece like myself, or do you think it's a legitimately bad game? Let me know down below in the comment section, and feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Discord server where we talk about your favorite games. I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.